We live in a world obsessed with feelings. The message that has won the day is, if it feels good, do it. That's just one of the slogans that both reflect and shape society. I'm Pastor Tom, and that brings us to today's Fuel for the Fire. It's volume 589, Pleasure Seekers. You've heard the mantras, have it your way, that was Burger King. Or pleasure is the path to joy, Haagen-Dazs. It's everywhere you want it to be, Visa. Just do it, Nike. Or grab for all the gusto you can get, Schlitz beer. The World War II generation is the greatest generation who ever lived, according to Tom Brokaw's book. I'd have to agree. They accepted great sacrifice and chose to give up pleasure and convenience in order to further the cause. The burden fell to them, and they responded with honor and valor, both at home and abroad. The problem came later, when the war ended and the greatest generation began to channel their energies toward home. It was as if they wanted their children to have the life they always wanted but never had. They poured their energy into long hours at the office or in the factory in order to give their children everything they lacked growing up in the Depression and during the war. Just one generation later, we had a new purpose in life, this one not quite as noble. Now we aspired to avoid adversity at any cost. We had produced a generation of pleasure seekers. The post-World War II generation was anti-establishment. It was the free love generation, fueled by the drug culture. It hung out at the corner of Haight and Ashbury. While the previous generation gave it all for others, to this generation, nothing would be denied. They were pleasure seekers. It was similar to the plight of Solomon in the post-Davidic world. David had been the warrior king. He fought his way up from the bottom. He dwelt in caves and fields and spent years on the run, pursued by those who hated the cause that drove him and the God that called him. He made plenty of mistakes and lived to tell about them. Over time, by the sweat of his brow and by his blood-stained hands, David established a great kingdom that spanned much of the known world. When David breathed his last and the kingdom passed from the sweet psalmist of Israel to his son Solomon, like the post-World War II generation, he didn't know what to do with himself. So he did what came naturally. He became a pleasure seeker. And whatsoever mine eyes desired, Solomon said, I kept not from them. I withheld not my heart from any joy, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor. That's Ecclesiastes 2:10. Have it your way. Pleasure is the path to joy. Grab for all the gusto you can get. Flash forward to where we are today. Now just 2 generations from a generation of people who sacrificed everything, we have a culture that won't deny themselves anything. We live to indulge ourselves in pleasure and avoid adversity at any cost. We live in a feeling-fueled world, and I believe it'll take a catastrophic event to push the reset button. People have discovered ways to get paid without having to work. They're pleasure seekers. The government is supporting extraordinary numbers of its citizens while less and less pay into the system. It's not a Democrat versus Republican problem, it's a people problem. Not only is it unworkable financially, it's producing a people who have leanness in their soul. We have discovered how to vote ourselves benefits, and that may well be the tipping point. After all, if you rob Peter to pay Paul, you can always count on Paul's vote. Given human nature and all of its tendencies, it appears hopeless. We have but one solitary glimmer of hope. Our hope is in a return to the God who called us out of darkness and into his marvelous light. We need a revival of epic proportion that shifts the heart and mind of a lost generation in a lost world. It's the same conclusion that Solomon came to some 3,000 years ago. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter, he said. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it's good or whether it's evil. Ecclesiastes 12:13 and 14. That's the way I see it, and that's a little fuel for the fire. And remember, I love you guys.